What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video, a true hoot and a holler. One of the most illegal hoots and hollers I've ever posted, because this one, I had to wait for the statute of limitations to expire before I could share it. So I hope you guys enjoy. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also, I just gotta say, this is probably the worst gameplay I've ever used on this channel. I recorded this video right before a flight, so I didn't have time to get more gameplay, and I decided to play Golf It, which is a mini golf game I don't play very much, and it went terribly. I wouldn't wish this game upon my worst enemy. I hate it. Hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, let's dive right into the video. So this one took place back in 2016, during my infamous junior year of high school, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, this is a story that I've been sitting on for a long time, because this was a step up from your standard, retail theft that I would commit. I knew the investigators weren't coming after me for that kind of shit, but for this, I don't want to get my friends in trouble, so we had to wait a little while. Now, on this fateful day, I was with my homies Michael and Bill, who were kind of my typical crowd back in this era. You see, Michael and I had been good friends at this point, and we were good friends for a while, and Bill was a guy who would just kind of come around whenever he wasn't at work. Now, Bill was also the kind of guy who had a new job every other month. This guy would get a job, he'd gas it up for like a week and tell us how great it is, and then he'd quit a month later. And on this particular month, the job that Bill had was he was working delivery at a pizza place. Now, this was a job that Bill had done a few times before, but this time around, he got a job at a pizza place that was pretty well known in our area for being the spot, the degenerate pizza place. This pizza place, which I shall not name, was essentially entirely ran by drunk high schoolers. The owners just gave the keys to a bunch of high schoolers and were like, yeah, do whatever you want. We used to pull up to this pizza place and sesh. We would smoke blunts in the back room inside. Honestly, none of the food was probably sanitary to eat in this restaurant because of the amount of smoke that was around it at pretty much all times. So on this fateful day, I had been picked up by Bill, and Bill was already headed over to Michael's, which was a pretty typical routine at this point. The only thing atypical about this was that I was being picked up by Bill, because there was like a 75% chance that this guy either A, crashed his car, or B, his car was not in running condition at any given day. So it was really surprising that Bill was actually mobile. So he picks me up and we ride over to Michael's and we're chilling, we're vibing. However, you guys know how the high school sessions go. You guys know that when you're just sitting at someone's parents' crib doing nothing, pretty much anything is more eventful. So the idea of going and standing in the back room of a pizza place and smoking blunts of mid was a really exciting concept. And Bill told us that his buddy Ryan, is what we're going to call him, who was the manager, was working, so we were able to come through. So we were like, bet, let's go to the pizza joint. We'll get free pizza, we'll get high, we'll get to match, we'll get to sesh. Like, this is great. This is going to work out for everybody. So pretty much as soon as Bill and I got to Michael's, we got there, sat there for like maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we just got right back in Bill's car and drove up to the pizza spot. Now, we parked up out back, and already there was a scene out here. You see, as I mentioned earlier, this pizza place was literally the spot, ran entirely by high schoolers or those guys in their late 20s who still sleep with high schoolers. So it was a mess. We parked up out back, and they had these couple old, delivery vans out there. They almost looked like they were old, milk trucks or, UPS trucks that got D-badged. But these things were always unlocked, and we could just go inside of them and session them. So those things were the spot, and when we pulled up, there were already some motherfuckers out back there sessioning them. Now, I had no idea who these other people were. They were probably friends of the other co-workers that were running the place. But either way, it was essentially just a 24/7 party out back of this pizza joint. So we pull up, and we're vibing. We go inside. Bill introduces me to his manager, Ryan, and Ryan is essentially what I just described. A man in his late 20s who fucks high schoolers, right? Really, a very questionable guy, but also, I feel like a lot of those pizza place managers are kind of like that. If you have a guy who's older and he's a manager at one of those places where all the high schoolers work, it's a coin flip as to whether or not he's piping them. You know, hey, he might be a felon and he might be a pedo, but hey, we're getting the pizza though. So we're chilling behind the counter, and this is a busy pizza place, by the way, and this place was still open. You would be able to go in and buy a pizza from this place without ever knowing that in back there are 6 high schoolers smoking mid in the same room that your pizza's being prepared. Like, people would have no idea. So we're back there. Meanwhile, Ryan or Bill has to, like, go up every now and then. Even though Bill's not on the clock, every now and then they make him help because he actually works there. Meanwhile, me and Michael are just in back vibing our brains out, you know, we're chilling. We roll up a blunt and we're sitting back there, and there's this little like steel table that they have, right? I don't really know what it was for. It was literally just like this heavy ass steel table, but it was essentially the rolling table. Like, it was the designated spot. If someone was posted at this table, they were probably rolling, and that's what we were doing. We post up at the table and we start rolling up, and Ryan, he ends up matching us. Bill, he's matching. We got the weed flowing, and we spark up. But the weed's not really why this story is being told. If it was just smoking inside of a pizza place, whatever. I've done that before. I did the loud challenge at Little Caesars and got chased out, you know, like, whatever. That's pretty normal. No. You see, the real reason that this story is on this channel right now is because of what happened after. And the real reason I brought up the statute of limitations is what happened after we smoked these blunts. So you see, we smoked these blunts. We spark up, and we're chilling for quite a while, and when we had shown up, it was already close to closing. So we chilled for a little bit, smoked our blunts, fucked around, drank some sodas without paying for them, ate some pizza, and finally it was closing time. So everyone who was clocked in was doing all their closing stuff, and me, Bill, and Michael were just kind of vibing out back. We had gone out back to chill more by the milk truck looking thing because the other people who were there had left. The other party of scavengers, they had dipped. You know, they'd gotten their loot, they dipped. So we're chilling out back. And the thing is, this pizza place, even after it officially closed for business, was never truly closed. Like, motherfuckers would be in here at 2 a.m. smoking because they would give any and everybody the keys. Like, I don't know if they did any background checks or, like, verification when they hired people here, because they would hire some of the most degenerate people I knew. Like, people that could not get jobs doing community service. People that the church would not allow to volunteer. Now, after we finished smoking these blunts, things got a little more eventful. You see, Bill was always very into opiates, and when this man busted out hydros, there was probably a 5-second lifespan before they were down his gullet. And that's exactly what happened. This man busted out a little bottle of hydros, and hydros were the wave back in high school because none of us could afford the real opiates, so we'd just take the baby ones that we could get scripts for. He busts out the hydros, and he starts fucking passing them out like candy. These things were free real estate, so of course I take a couple. I'm like, bet, dude, give me some of these little shits. In all honesty, I don't really remember what strength they were, but I don't think it matters because hydros are so weak anyways that fuck that shit. Grow up, okay? Grow up. Why don't you graduate a little bit, get a little fentanyl, you know? God forbid. But at this point, we had not graduated. We were still babies. So we were doing our little hydros. And I pop a couple down the hatch, and I'm just floating. Like, I'm feeling good. I wouldn't say I was necessarily cloud 9, you know, opiate high level 1000. You know, I had the opiate shit. But it definitely enhanced the vibes that were already flowing. And things got a little reckless. As we chilled and people kind of started to leave the pizza joint and dissipate, it got pretty close to being myself, Bill, Michael, and Ryan being the only ones left in the pizza joint. And Bill and Ryan were talking, and Bill kept telling Ryan how he wanted to quit. And Ryan was not the type of manager who was going to hold you back. He was not going to stop you from quitting. He did not give a shit. In fact, you quitting meant that he had less competition to get to the high school ladies. So he was extremely down. He was like, yeah, hey, you know, do what you want to do. Hey, do what you got to do. Now, this is where things really escalated. You see, Bill goes over to the cash register. And he's like, fuck it, dude. Like, I'm quitting. Fuck this shit. I'm gonna get paid. Like, my paycheck hasn't come yet. Fuck it. And at first, we're kind of joking around. We're like, oh, yeah, you know, you should grab your paycheck, dude. Like, yeah, take your paycheck right now. Like, they owe you anyways, bro. Like, you just worked. Like, you're here clocked in right now. And it started out as, like, silly, haha kind of joke. And it escalated pretty quickly to, like, oh, he's actually taking money out of the cash register. Now, I don't know exactly how much money was in the register at this time, and now that I think about it, I don't even know why there was money in the register, because don't they normally put that shit away when they close? I don't know. This place was ran by degenerates, so they probably had no routine or schedule. But either way, Bill pops open the cash register, and they had this primal ass register. It was a very, very sketchy setup. They had this like old ass cash register wired up to this little iPad that they would take orders on. But you could just walk up and open the register. Like there was nothing stopping someone from just going behind the counter and just opening the fucking register. Like it was free real estate, right? So Bill busts open the register and he just starts grabbing some cash out. And I'm like, what the like, I'm watching a real life robbery. Like this is kind of weird. Like this is kind of out of pocket. This is further than even I would go. Like normally it's like, okay, I'll steal the pizza. You know, maybe I'll come in the front, open the fridge, steal a couple sodas. But like going behind the counter and stealing money out of the register is an entirely different crime. That is no longer retail theft. Now, he grabs like maybe a couple $100 out of the register. It wasn't a crazy amount of money. Like when we got back in the car, he was like, look at this shit. And it was just some 20s, so it wasn't a ludicrous amount of money. But I'd guesstimate he grabbed probably a couple $100 out of there. He grabbed that money and we skedaddled pretty much immediately. And Ryan did not give a fuck. That's the craziest part about this whole thing to me. This guy's boss was in the fucking building, knew that this was occurring and just didn't care. Like, didn't stop him, didn't do anything. It was just like, fuck it. I don't know how this place, honestly, it could have been a money laundering front. Maybe that's why they didn't care about a couple $100 going missing. Because I feel like normally at a pizza place, like a couple $100 going missing, they're calling 12. They're calling the Jakes. You're done, bud. You're getting tased. You're getting a little fucking taser prong right in your ass. Like, bye-bye. But this place, money laundering front, hires a bunch of high schoolers, so they didn't care. So, we dip up out of there and we go back to Michael's house. And Bill's counting through his winnings and we're chilling there and Bill realizes that he has enough funding to buy more hydros. Now, we had one guy in particular who usually was always good for the hydros because he always had a script. I don't know if the script was his or if it was like his grandma's, which was a very common thing. But either way, he had access to a hydro script and it seemed to be a big one. Like this guy always had them. You could go buy like 20 of these fuckers. Didn't matter. He'd have 20 more 2 hours later. Like this guy just always fucking had them. So we're like, shit, hey, maybe you could grab some hydros with that. And deep down, we're looking at the money and we're like, it's not our money, but I sure fucking hope he buys some weed that we can smoke. Like, I really hope Bill buys some weed that we can share. So me and Michael are kind of trying to encourage him, like, have you considered buying a zip? Like, have you reflected upon the concept of buying a zip and then rolling a couple blunts that we can hit for free? And it didn't seem like he reflected upon that concept because he hits up our hydro guy, who coincidentally, his real life name is Michael. So we're just going to call him Mike. He was not really close enough to me to warrant a fake name. So we're just going to call him Mike. Fuck it. If you're listening out there, Mike, what's up, dude? Either way. So Mike was the hydro man, and Bill hits him up, and Mike comes over to Michael's house. Confusing, I know. Mike comes over, and he busts out the goods. He's got the hydros on deck. I don't remember exactly how many Bill grabbed, because like I said, I wasn't really asking for any. When they were offered, I would take them, but, opiates were just never my cup of tea. They never really hit for me. So Bill gets his hydros, and then Mike skedaddles on out pretty much immediately. Mike was kind of a strange guy looking back at it. He wasn't really very social, but he was very into drugs. And I feel like in high school, those are two things that usually don't go together. Like if you're doing drugs in high school, you're probably social. You're probably one of the kids that goes to parties, The depressed drug use doesn't start until your 20s, trust me. Now, Bill pretty much immediately starts breaking down these hydros and railing them. This guy was a real opiate animal. I think he's reformed nowadays, but I take that with a grain of salt because like as recently as a year ago, he was not reformed. So take that with a grain of salt. However, I think he's reformed nowadays. Shout out Bill. But he's going in on the fucking lines of this shit. And at this point, I didn't even feel like asking. I was like, I'm good. I'll just smoke a little weed, watch Bill commit his fucking, his theft. I don't know. I'll just ponder on the crime that just occurred in front of me. Listen, I would steal objects from a business. I would not steal money directly from the business. Although, if I'm being honest, back in this era of my life, I probably would have if I had access. I had very few morals. Like at this era in my life, there's not many things that I would have done or that I would not have done. Like if there was an old, frail grandmother walking across the street and she had a Birkin bag, I would have haymakered that bitch so fast. So fast. You know what? And I was the problem with society when I was younger. You know, hey, now that I'm older, I might help her cross the street and then instead try to convince her to give up the bag, you know? A bit more sophisticated of a finesse. Now, I also have no idea how Bill was able to handle snorting this much hydro, because we were taking the little football fuckers. We were taking, I'm pretty sure they were the 5s, and those things break down bulky as hell, dude, and they're tough. Like, Bill would fight for his goddamn rights, breaking down a hydro. Like, this guy, I would watch him develop a sweat, blood, sweat, and tears flowing from this man just to get a little hydro in the nasal cavity. But, I mean, hey, it worked out for him. We chilled at Michael's a little longer, and eventually Bill drove me back home, which also in retrospect was probably not a great idea. You know, we got homie off the hydros fucking lit, opiates flowing through the bloodstream. Yeah, hey, we in traffic with it. Probably not a great idea. However, once again, I was young and ignorant, so who gives a damn? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Seriously, join the sub club. Don't miss all the goblin content. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces.